Okay, so here's my update for this week. I just finished up week 10 of my shred, and I honestly don't know if there's going to be that much of a difference. So like last week it was weird, like I said, because like the video I did last week, because I did end up losing quite a bit of weight. But I also didn't eat all of my meals. Like I couldn't finish my meals some nights. I just didn't have as much of an appetite last week. But this week my appetite was back. It wasn't like bad. I didn't have like major cravings, but I was finding myself hungrier earlier. And then I was also finishing all of my food. And so the weight loss is kind of like slowed down. And again, like weight loss is not the goal of this. But it's just a metric to kind of measure changes that are happening. So I still ended up losing some weight. So my average weight for the previous week was 141.8. The average week for this week was 140.5. So that was an average loss of 1.3 pounds. And honestly, my weight, even though it shows that I lost, it was kind of, it kind of went up and down like it always does. So again, that's why I say, like, don't take the weight from day to day. Like, your weight changes from day to day. I don't know if it's the same for men or women, but in my case, it's just like, even if I'm doing the same thing, eating the same things every day, my weight just goes up and down by like 1 or 2 pounds, just from day to day. But it's, you know, overall trending down. Next week, I think it's gonna be maybe more substantial, because it does seem like around 1300, 1350 is kind of my maintenance calories for the amount of activity that I've been doing. So, and I don't know, maybe doing Taibo last week also kind of helped, you know, like, not helped, but like caused me to lose more weight, because it was a little bit more cardio intensive and I was doing a lot of walking. Whereas this week I was back, you know, last week I did Taibo for 3 of the days because I was on vacation, but this week I was back in the gym every day. But yeah, there was one thing I wanted to mention, because I talked about it with my roommate, and I don't know if this is true for everybody, but for me, like, I don't feel as strong as I did at the beginning. And I think part of it is because at the beginning I was getting sore like almost every day, and I felt like I could like feel the effects of my workout, and like it just seemed more like I could feel my body was feeling harder, like firmer. You know, my legs were feeling really solid, and I don't know if I've just like acclimated to my body feeling like that now, because I don't feel like I'm as like toned anymore or firm as I did at the beginning when I was first working out and starting to build more muscle. And I don't think it's gone away, but I don't know if my body's just become acclimated to feeling like that. And so it's just kind of weird. And like, I know that you don't have to like get sore or whatever at the gym to have actually like worked out, but that's just something I've noticed. Like I don't feel like I'm building as much anymore, and maybe that's because my calories have dropped. Maybe I'm not building as much muscle. I don't know. I'm still hitting like the same weights, and I'm pushing just a little bit. And that's one thing, like, I think I'm to the point now. At the beginning, I was afraid to like try to up my weights too much because I was getting sore and I didn't want to like hurt myself, and, you know, not be able to work out. And so I was a little bit more careful with how much I was lifting. And I think I'm to the point now, really over the last 2 or 3 weeks, that I really feel like I could start pushing a little bit more, even though I have been a little bit, but I think I could actually do a little bit more. But we'll see when my calories drop next week. So yeah, it's been 1,300 calories for the last 2 weeks, and this next week it's dropping to 12. So we'll see how that goes. And last week, even though I had lost quite a bit of weight, you know, almost 3 pounds on average last week, the measurements didn't change that much. So we'll see if the measurements change too much this week. I don't know. I do feel, even though I don't feel like as solid, I do feel a little bit, I do feel thinner. Like, I don't know if that makes sense, but I guess we'll see when we do the measurements. So I don't really have too much else to add for this week because the calories were the same. Workouts were good. I don't know. I'm a little bit worried about next week. I'm kind of glad that we're towards the end now, because if I'm remembering what's happened the last 2 months, I think my hormone cycle, because I didn't have an appetite last week, my appetite was a little bit more this week. I think next week may be a little bit hard, especially with dropping the calories. I think next week or the week after might be the time that I'm really like craving more, and you know, just the part of my hormone cycle. So I'm glad that I don't know if this is going to be a good thing, if it's going to be good that it's towards the end, because I think in my mind I can mentally overcome it by saying, we've only got 2 more weeks, just push it out these last 2 weeks. So hopefully I can do that. So really, I'm doing it for this program, but I'm also, you know, trying to find something that's, you know, long-term sustainable for me to follow. So I think after this program is over, I'm going to keep following the program, but after this program is over, I think I'm going to try to eat more in line with what my body is telling me. So on those weeks that I'm not as hungry, I'm going to not eat as much. And I do think this program has helped me, and I've gotten into this before. It's like when you cut out all the really sugary stuff and the fried stuff and the fast food and everything, I feel like it does make it easier to eat intuitively. And so, I mean, I'm not a nutritionist or a dietitian or anything, but I do question these people who are online being like diet coaches or health coaches talking about intuitive eating. I do believe in intuitive eating, but I don't believe in it the way that a lot of people that I've been seeing are talking about it in terms of intuitive eating. Like, if your body's telling you to eat sweets or donuts or, you know, all of this stuff, that you should just listen to your body, because I think that sugar and, you know, different things in these processed foods kind of keep you from actually eating intuitively. But when I have been on like a totally like plant-based diet, like whole foods plant-based diet, I do feel like I can eat intuitively when I'm cutting out all of this stuff that kind of manipulates your brain into thinking that you're hungry, if that makes sense. So I want to try to continue doing that. I think if I can stick to eating kind of like whole foods, and even if you're not vegan, like I think even, you know, if you have meat, if you're eating mostly like meat and vegetables and nuts and things like that, that it could be the same way. But yeah, just cutting out processed foods. I think if you're still eating a lot of processed foods, it is hard to actually eat intuitively. But now that I've got like most of that cut out, I think it is going to be a little bit easier, and I'm going to try to stick to that after. So I'll talk about this in like another video when it's over, because I've got kind of a plan for what I'm going to do when this is done to try to, I don't know if I'm going to maintain the leanness that I think I'll get by the end of this, but you know, just to kind of keep myself in shape and keep working out and just maintain a weight and size and composition that's comfortable for me. But yeah, well, I'll stop rambling. There's not really too much to show in my app, so I'm not going to show that. I think I'm just going to get straight to the measurements. Okay, so I will say right now, my figure is looking awesome in my yoga pants, but it still looks about the same to me in my practice bikini. But I've been consciously not looking back at my before pictures, so it's gonna be kind of a surprise at the end to see how much I've changed over time. Like, I'm hoping that just from week to week I'm not seeing that many changes, but I think if I compare the two, it's gonna be a little bit more dramatic. But here's how I'm looking this week. All right, so front. So yeah, I mean, it doesn't look bad, but you know, with all the workouts that I've done and everything, like, I want to look like super lean, but I don't know. I think with the next week, with the lowering the calories, I think it's probably gonna kind of, you know, burn more of that fat that's kind of covering. And like I said last week, like, I'm just nervous that, like, once I burn that fat off, that I'm not gonna have as much muscle as I'd wanted to. And again, like, I'm not feeling like I've got as much muscle as I was feeling at the beginning. So I guess we'll just see over the next 2 weeks, like, how things change. But let me change my bottoms real quick and I'll do the measurements. All right, we will start with the chest, the band. So last week it was, looks like 30 3/4. This week, oh, it's like maybe 30 1/4. So that's a 1/2 inch. And then, like I said, my bras have been fitting a lot looser, but looking at it in this video, it doesn't look like my chest have gotten that much smaller, but definitely feel it in my bras that I wear every day. Try to get it. All right, so it's about 35 1/4, and that was what I had last week. And my waist. I'm pretty hungry right now. I haven't eaten yet. Today I'm doing this earlier than last week. So it is looking like 30 3/4. What was it last time? 31 1/4, so that's about a 1/2 inch. And my hips. Try to get it right on my hip bones. So this is 39 1/2. And last week it was 40, so I lost a 1/2 inch. So I lost about a 1/2 inch. In a couple of places. And then here's my thigh. Oops. Uh-oh, my cat's playing with the tape. Oh. Yeah, and maybe a 1/2 inch on my thigh. Last week I think it was 22. Whoa. Oh, no. Last week it was 21 3/4. This week it's 21 1/2, so a 1/4 inch on my thigh. Okay, so now it's showing up a little bit with measurements. And last week I'd done it later in the day after I'd eaten some stuff, so I don't know if that like affected the measurements, but so yeah, I mean, I think next week is going to be the big week because I think 1200 is definitely going to be below, substantially below my maintenance calories. But I'm excited for the food because the food is switching up more than usual. I get to eat chickpeas for the first time this whole time, and I love chickpeas. I mean, that's really the main thing. Everything else is kind of the same, but I'm excited about the chickpeas. And then I'll talk a little bit more about this next week, but this one week I do the same 1200 calories for the whole week, except for Sunday, which is the refeed day. And then the week after that, which is like peak week, I think it's the first 4 days I'm going to have the same diet. And then at the end, it's like higher carb, I guess, to kind of fill in your muscles and make the muscles look bigger. So we'll see how that goes 2 weeks from now, but for now I think it's good. Also, I want to note this week is Thanksgiving, and it's not really going to be a problem for me because we don't really, my family hasn't really done Thanksgiving in a while, so that's not going to affect any of this. So hopefully my appetite doesn't, I'm hoping, I don't know, I'm predicting that it's going to be more of a struggle based on the 2 months past just because of my hormones, but hopefully it's not. So I guess we'll see. I'm going to try to push harder at the gym too, just to keep building muscle and just to try to look as good as I can at the end. I've just been popping on the Facebook group for this program every once in a while, and some people are sharing these progress pics that are pretty good. So I don't know. I'm not super confident that I'll get in the top 10, but I'm gonna stick this out and try and just see what happens. So I will be back on next week with another update for how week 11 goes.